Today on the Bandrew Says podcast, we're going to be talking about being careful with conspiracy theories, Google Chrome invading your privacy, Facebook screwing their users, big surprise, and a whole lot more, so go ahead and stick around. Okay, greetings Earthlings, welcome back to episode 138 of the BSP. My name is Bandrew, this is what I says. There are timestamps down below in the show notes and description, so you could skip around to whatever topic you want to hear me talk about. But if you got the time, I'd suggest listening to the entire episode. One thing, if you do want to find out all the projects that I am working on, you can find that information at bandrewscott.com. Go ahead and check that out. Follow me on Twitter at BandrewSays. Let's get right into it. The news. This first one is a heavy one, and I am not going to enjoy talking about it, and it would be that a conspiracy theorist YouTuber was arrested for death threats. Now, someone by the name of William Gregory Douglas was arrested in Oregon after issuing death threats to YouTube employees, which included CEO of YouTube, Susan Wojcicki. Not very good. Not a good thing to do, dude. Knock it off. But his charges are going to be cyber stalking and transmitting threats in interstate commerce. And the justification behind threatening people's lives is because his YouTube channel got deleted. So he reverted to Twitter and started threatening employees of YouTube, which is just idiotic, which I'll talk about in a second. But the FBI came out and stated that the criminal complaint alleges that Douglas posted a series of tweets that included language such as, "I would kill the 100 YouTube employees. You want a bigger mass casualty, aka shooting? Let's see what I can do. And return my channel, you low-life shoals, before someone else comes and shoots more of your employees." Then on September 17th, 2018, he posted a message directly at Susan, stating, "Susan, I am coming for you today, #pray." I'm going to go ahead and say that even though those are not my words, having them come out of my mouth makes me so incredibly uncomfortable, and I don't like how it makes me feel. I also don't like the fact that that could possibly be taken out of context, but please don't do that. If you're going to quote this podcast, in particular that portion, keep it in context, okay? I probably shouldn't have given anybody any ideas, but the reason that I'm talking about this is I wanted to share my thoughts on a few things. First up, YouTube is not that important. It is not the end-all, be-all of life. I said the same thing when somebody actually went to YouTube headquarters and committed acts of violence. YouTube is not important. If your YouTube channel gets deleted, I understand. That sucks, especially if you've been putting in years of work. But YouTube, losing your access to YouTube is not justification, or it's not a good reason to go to jail. That's so stupid. There are so many video platforms out there. Go upload to Vimeo. I'm sure there's hundreds of video platforms that you could sign up for and upload your videos to and get your ideas out there without having to revert or I guess devolve into issuing acts of violence or threats of violence. That is absolutely idiotic, and I cannot believe that people are willing to do that. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and risk going to jail because my YouTube channel got deleted. Don't do that. That's stupid. And I also want to point out that, yes, I do have the conspiracy corner in this podcast, and I do enjoy researching conspiracy theories, but it's not me actually thinking that there's all these huge conspiratorial workings pulling the strings of everybody. I don't think that's the case. Conspiracies are just interesting for me. I think 99% of them are just absolute rubbish, but the conspiracy corner gives me a fun and interesting way to, I guess, contemplate the motivations behind questionable actions by corporations or by people in power. It's not me actually thinking that they're trying to control the general population and wipe out the entire poor population. I don't think any of that's true. I think it's just a fun way to explore motivations. And I do like conspiracies and I like the X-Files, but most of them are garbage. So please, if you are watching or listening to this, just keep that in mind. Don't let conspiracies lead you down a path of darkness because it is so incredibly easy to do that, especially if you don't interact with other people, especially if you don't think logically about everything. Is it really true? Do you think there's reptilian elite in control? Probably not, dude. Calm down. It's gonna be okay. And don't threaten people because your YouTube channel gets deleted. That is ridiculous. And I'm gonna end it there. Just please be careful. Then we got Google Chrome automatically logging you in to Google Chrome. So previously, you could be logged into a Gmail account or your YouTube account, which are Google services, but you would not automatically be logged into the Google Chrome browser. Well, with update 69, and I get it, oh, it's the internet, 69, so funny. I don't get so much humor out of that, but with this update, they're going to automatically log you into your Google account. And needless to say, all the privacy-conscious people are freaking out, losing their mind, saying, oh my God, now they're going to be tracking my browsing history and uploading it directly to my account. Oh my God. And I get it. I absolutely get that because that freaks me out too. But if you think that just because you weren't logged into your Google account while you're using Chrome, that you weren't being tracked, I'm going to go ahead and say that I think you're being a little bit naive there. Now, I will admit that I'm basing this off of nothing, but here's what I imagine could be happening before this update 69 rolls out for Google Chrome. The first time you open up Chrome and you sign into any of your Google accounts, Chrome will probably get some kind of device ID of the device you're using and then develop some kind of unique ID that's tied to that specific device and that specific browser, and that is stored in Google servers. Then, whenever you go and open up Chrome, that device ID and unique ID are going to be in Chrome, and your browsing history will get tied directly to that unique ID in Google servers. So if you were logged in or not, your browsing habits could likely have been tracked from way back in the day because Google just loves collecting all this data about you, but now it's much more obvious. Oh, I'm signed in, so Google is tracking me. If they were doing all the stuff that I was just conspiratorially positing about, well, now they ruined it. They ruined it for themselves. Now people are going to be much more aware that Google is tracking them. That's my take on it. So as I mentioned, I am not basing this off of any actual information. I am just speculating here. But knowing how much Google loves having our data to market to us, to manipulate us, and how good they are at gathering that information, it doesn't seem that far-fetched that this would have been happening. But that's it. People are freaking out, and I understand. But if you think Google wasn't tracking your browsing behavior before, I think you're being naive. Now let's go ahead and jump to the Facebook news, and we got one very brief story, and it would be that Instagram's CEOs have left the company. Now, I do think it's important to note that if you are unaware, Instagram is owned by their parent company, Facebook. So there are so many people who have left Facebook because of privacy concerns, and then they still use Instagram. You're not out of the clutches of Facebook. You're still giving Facebook all your information, but that's a different story for a different time. I do understand why a lot of people have moved from Facebook to Instagram, and it's because it is a better experience. You're not as obviously being marketed to. It's not as obvious that you're being tracked as much, and it's not as easy to fall into an argument as it is on Facebook proper. But I do think that we will probably see a pretty big change to the Instagram experience now that those CEOs that have apparently been very vocal and very instrumental in keeping Instagram intact have left the company. I don't think there's going to be as many barriers for Facebook to do whatever the hell they want. They can start tracking you, they can start advertising to you, they can start doing a lot more with the Instagram experience, adding regrams, doing whatever the heck they want. I don't think this is going to be good for Instagram, but we'll have to wait and see. And if you are concerned with Facebook, get off Instagram. It's owned by them. What are you doing? But that's the short story. Next thing, Facebook has been targeting you based on your phone number. No big surprise here. I think everybody knew that this was happening. But it's not just if you actively put your phone number in there saying, hey, Facebook, here's my phone number. This is also if you set up two-factor authentication before May. they required you to input your phone number. And the reason I'm sharing this is because I have been a huge advocate for turning on two-factor authentication for all of your social media accounts. And like I said, if you wanted to turn on two-factor authentication on Facebook, they would have required you to input a phone number so they could text you a two-factor authentication code. Well, it came out that Facebook has been using this phone number to target ads at you. And they have also been using your personal information uploaded from other people's contact books on their phone to target you. How insane is that? You think that I'm being crazy when I say yell at your friends for allowing access to their contact book. No, this is exactly why I think it's a terrible idea for any application to ask for access to your contacts, because they upload all that information stored and use it to target people that had no intention of sharing that information. My God, it's so obvious. Regardless, TechCrunch confirmed with Facebook and they got a statement which I'm going to share with you now. We use the information that people provide to offer a better, more personalized experience on Facebook, including ads. We are clear about how we use the information we collect, including the contact information that people upload or add to their own accounts. You can manage and delete the contact information you've uploaded at any time. I'm going to go ahead and say, Facebook, you have not been very clear about the use of this information. I think it's ridiculous that you're taking information that you require to secure your account and using that to market to people, using that directly in the face of these people being security and privacy conscious. They don't want people accessing their account. They want to be a little bit more secure using your platform, yet here you are using that against them. That is absolutely insane. And also, you guys said, we're clear about how we use information, including the contact information that people upload to their own accounts. And you can manage and delete contact information that you've uploaded at any time. What I understand from that is we have no power or no way of managing the information that other people upload about us, because you do collect everybody's contact book when they download the Facebook app to their phone. You're not allowing us any ability to see what information you have there or any way to manage that. That's the problem here. So how is Facebook likely using this information to target to you? Well, when a lot of people sign up for those Savey Save cards at stores, they are typically required to provide a phone number, and if you're dumb, you're going to actually give them your real phone number. Then these companies, for instance, Best Buy, likely have databases of everything that you've ever purchased there, tie it to that phone number, and then Facebook will likely purchase a data set from that retailer, like Best Buy, or Best Buy could have a big database and say, hey, Facebook, here's a list of phone numbers and the products that we want to advertise to each of those individual people. Here's some money, advertise to them. That is exactly what I imagine is happening, and I do 100% think that Facebook is hoovering up all this information, buying these data sets from the retailers, and the retailers are probably more than happy to hand it over because that's a few extra bucks. They're probably getting millions of dollars to get access to this information. It's a lose-lose for the consumer, but it's a win-win-win-win-win for every single retailer and social media company that's buying this information. They probably know more about us than we know about ourselves. It is absolutely insane. Facebook, Amazon, and Google they've shepherded us into this advertising consumerism dystopia. It's insane. We cannot escape this. Everywhere you look, everywhere you go, they are collecting data about you. And I know I sound like a crazy conspiracy nut, but it's true. I know I'm turning into like a very calm, very PC Alex Jones over here. I'm just going to stop there. I'm going to stop. I'll go ahead and link an article from TechCrunch if you want to read more about it. But there needs to be a way to escape this consumer ad state that we're going into. Next story from Facebook is Facebook got hacked, kind of. So on September 28th, 2018, Facebook came out with a press release that said, on the afternoon of Tuesday, September 25th, our engineering team discovered a security issue affecting almost 50 million accounts. It allowed people to exploit the View As function to steal users' access tokens and take over their accounts. Now, Facebook came out with a couple of steps that they have taken to mitigate this disaster. Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a disaster. This oversight, I would call the Equifax data breach an absolute disaster. This is more of just a big mistake and something that's gonna contribute to people losing faith in Facebook more. But the first step they took is they fixed the vulnerability and informed law enforcement. Good. I'm glad you did that. That's very important that you fixed the vulnerability that allowed people to have their access tokens stolen. Good job, Facebook. Pat on the back. Good job. Keep up the good work. They also reset the access tokens of the almost 50 million accounts that they knew were affected, as well as 40 million additional accounts that may have been affected. And third, they're turning off the View As feature. My understanding of that feature is it's just for somebody like me. If I log into Facebook, I can say View As Public, View As Friend, and see what other people see on my profile. So I don't know how exactly they went about exploiting that, but that's what they did. Now, I guess I'll just end this story by saying more and more we're reminded why we shouldn't be using Facebook, or if you are using Facebook, why you probably shouldn't be putting so much sensitive information on it, because it will be exploited, your account will get leaked, and everything that you've put there will be accessible by somebody with nefarious intent. Now, I'm going to end the entire Facebook security thing with my opinion here. What can be done to avoid this kind of danger? And I will preface this by pointing out I'm not a security expert. I am just a very paranoid person. But here's what I would consider if I was concerned with all these security breaches and concerned with my privacy and security. First and foremost, I would have a conversation with people near you about security and what you're okay with them doing with your information that they have access to, because a lot of people don't have the same ideas that you do about privacy and security. How many times have you spoken to somebody who said, oh, I don't really care, I got nothing to hide, I'll just go ahead and not use a VPN and not put on two-factor authentication, who cares? Nothing bad could happen here. Although if you were to ask them, hey, can I log into your email and post that for everybody to see? They would probably say no. So there's a disconnect between what they say and what they are willing to do. You need to have that conversation with people. Second, don't put sensitive information anywhere near these social media platforms if you don't want it to get out there. And I mean in DMs or anywhere, because that is likely going to get leaked at some point when there's a vulnerability like this that they did not foresee coming. I've personally had a very awkward conversation with somebody where I said, please do not post that information about me. Please delete it. Please do not post that until this date, because I understand how that information could be abused, and this other person didn't understand that and wasn't really willing to abide by those rules. I eventually convinced them to, I guess, acknowledge my request or accept my request, but it was a very awkward conversation, and they got a little bit heated where they thought I was being a little bit too paranoid, where I don't think I was. So don't put sensitive information out there, and tell your friends or your family members what information you're okay with. And third, consider deleting your accounts on these platforms unless you do actually get a lot of value out of them. I would ask yourself, do you really need to know what Joe Bob from high school is doing every day? And does everybody need to know what Cheryl at your work did today? Probably not. So why are you willing to put so much of your information at risk just to find out useless information about somebody you haven't spoken to in a decade, and you're sharing information that nobody cares about one of your coworkers? Who cares? Why are you putting yourself at risk for something so minute and so insignificant? Although if you don't decide to delete your accounts, why am I pronouncing words so weird? Delete your accounts? Oh my God. Just seriously consider the information that you're providing to these companies by using their service, and then ask yourself, how could they be using this information to exploit me or just gain money out of me? Because that's the bottom line here. These companies are not in the business of providing services for free. They are in the business of making money. And that's it for the news. I got a little conspiratorial here today, and I know that's a little bit weird considering the first story I talked about. So again, I will remind you, do not take conspiracy theories too seriously. It's just a fun way to explore topics. Now, I got one new product that I want to talk about, and it has not been released yet, but it is going to be Sonarworks TrueFi coming to your mobile phone. This is so awesome. When I saw this tweet from Sonarworks, I replied to them just saying, yes, 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 gimme, 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 because I want it so bad. I love Sonarworks TrueFi on my computer. It is incredible. If you don't know what TrueFi is, it's an application for your computer, and it essentially flattens out your headphones. So Sonarworks, what they do is they measure a bunch of headphones of a certain model. They get a baseline frequency response of that headphone, and then they have an EQ software that reverts that and flattens it out completely. And then they have a few other parameters that you can adjust, or you can boost the bass, or if you are older, you lose a little bit of your higher frequency hearing. So it allows you to boost those frequencies a decibel or 2 or 3, depending on your age and depending on personal preference. But I was thinking about this just last week, thinking, oh, this would be so amazing if I could do this from my phone. If I could flatten out the Apple AirPods, that would be incredible because they definitely don't sound good. But then I looked for it and couldn't find it. Well, here we go. Right after I was thinking about that, Sonarworks came out with this tweet, and oh my God, I am so excited. I am so excited. And I think it will be very interesting to see what headphones and earbuds they put on this mobile app, because the headphones that people use in the studio are going to differ quite significantly from the headphones that somebody uses with their smartphone. I don't think you're going to see many people walking around with Sony MDR7506s on their head when they're going into work or going for a jog. So are they going to be including stuff like Beats, Apple AirPods, Jaybirds, all of these wireless Bluetooth headphones? And additionally, what kind of latency is that going to add, especially if you're using it wirelessly? It will be very interesting to see, and I cannot wait for this. Take my money! Shut up and take my money, Sonarworks. I want this thing so dang bad. Okay. Now, what have I been testing? You've actually been listening to it this entire time. This is the Sennheiser MKH-416, and if you couldn't tell, it's a shotgun microphone. What, Bandrew, why are you talking into a shotgun microphone like it's a normal microphone? Well, it's very popular for voiceover because it sounds really good for voiceover. Sure, it is a shotgun microphone, but it functions really well as a voiceover, and as you can tell, it does add a lot of bass to your voice, which I need a lot of help with. So if you have a very bassy voice and you want that radio announcer voice, this may be a very good microphone for you. But if you don't want that, if you want very clear tone, you may not want this microphone because it does have a lot of proximity effect, but I think it sounds awesome. I love the amount of bass that it has because, as I mentioned, I need the help, but it also has a lot of clarity up top. But it remains very balanced sounding, although it does get a little bit sibilant at times, so I will have to run a de-esser for sure. But all around, I have really been impressed with this. I've been playing around with it for maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and really enjoying it. I'll be using this microphone for the next month on the podcast, and then I'll be reviewing it. And as I mentioned, the MD441U is on its way to Sennheiser. I want that back to see if it changes the tone at all. Now let's jump to what she had to say. First comment comes from the Astrology School. He says, the Canon C100 Mark II has clean HDMI out for what it's worth. Well, thank you. The reason I'm laughing is I would love to have the C100 Mark II or the C200 for that matter, but they are way out of my price range. They are ridiculously expensive, especially considering that I'm just a dopey guy who makes YouTube videos doing audio tests, and then I do a goofy podcast. I don't think I could ever justify purchasing a C100 Mark II or a C200, regardless of how amazing that would be. I would love to have them, but it's way out of my budget and can't be justified. The second comment comes from, let me increase the size here, poorly reported. The PayPal thing is very weird. I've started noticing this stuff before Gamergate, but it has taken a strange turn ever since. Twitter will never allow tweet editing because the service was originally based around SMS. You can still use Twitter via texting only if you want to. You can't edit texts, so you can't edit tweets. So poorly reported, thank you very much. I was fully aware that Twitter started using SMS when they launched, and that was a very cool feature. I actually knew people who would get the tweet notifications or the text notifications from football coaches that they liked because they wanted to do better at fantasy football or they wanted to follow their favorite college team. So I was aware of that, but I didn't think that service was still available. But, you know, I guess that makes perfect sense. If they are still texting stuff to people, then there's a good reason why you can't edit tweets. They would have to kill that service first. But thank you very much. The next comment comes from Kragatar. He says, on the topic of ads, I think all ads should be at the end of the video. If the ad comes at the beginning, I'm going to either skip the video or install an ad blocker because I'm not wasting 30 seconds of my life waiting for someone to sensually drink a Coke while some god-awful pop song plays. But if the ad is at the end, I'm not going to even care because I'm in a good mood that I got to watch my video problem-free, and if the ad is wisely designed, they can flash the image of a sexy Coke bottle into my brain for 1 second before I have time to click away, getting their product into the mind of someone who puts a lot of effort into avoiding ads. Either that, or just make all ads 5 seconds. 5-second ads, I'll just deal with. 15 seconds or longer, and it's ad blocker time. Okay, Kragatar, I completely understand your hatred of advertisements because that's a sentiment that I personally share, but I think it's important to remember that advertising is how a lot of YouTubers and online content creators are able to fund their entire operation. And advertisers know that if there's an ad at the end of the video, nobody's going to be watching it. And how do they know that? Because YouTube tracks all that information, all that user information. They know exactly when somebody clicks off a video. They know averages of where people are leaving videos. As soon as somebody starts doing an outro in a video, a big majority of people will click off that video. So if nobody is going to be watching at the end, why would an advertiser pay any money to be placed at the end? They probably wouldn't. Now, do I think that advertising is good? No, I absolutely hate advertising. I feel like it's very manipulative and it's degrading the quality of life. I think that kind of, a little bit hyperbolic, but a general idea I do agree with. But I think that with the way the internet was set up and how it's been accepted over the decades, that advertising is the current model that works. A large number of people think that the internet, or at least I guess the content on the internet, should be free. There should not be a paywall to access to certain information. And I think that makes perfect sense. So for instance, if I were to say, if you want to watch any of my review videos, you're going to have to pay me $5 a month. Or if you want to see my review on the Shure SM7B, it's $1 a view. It's $1 a view. There's a paywall or there's a subscription. You make the decision. What I mean is, if advertising on the internet was wiped out, everybody would have to move to subscription models or add a paywall of some sort in order to get the revenue that's required to produce their content. And subscription models would likely pose a pretty high barrier of entry for anybody that's new. What I mean by that is, when I was first starting, why would anybody give me money to watch one of my reviews? I have no clout, I have no reputability, nobody knew who I was, so why would anybody give me any amount of money? They wouldn't. That's the problem with going to a subscription model or any kind of model with a paywall. It really does put a barrier of entry for people who are new and want to come into the market. I guess I just think that ads are here to stay for now, and I can't support using ad block because advertisements fund content creation and I create content and I rely on that to be able to continue to make that content. So, but I do understand. I do understand why you use ad block because ads are the worst. And the last comment comes from Stargate Pioneer. He asks, why did you revert back to an MP3 player? I think this is a conspiracy unto itself. Okay, SP, the host of Better Podcasting, great question. And, you know, I would love for this to be a conspiracy theory, and let's actually jump to the conspiracy corner and see if we can find one. What is the underlying motivation of Bandrew reverting to an MP3 player? Could it be that he's part of the reptilian elite and he's trying to control the world? I don't know, but there's got to be something. What could, I don't know. Let's get out of here. First off, let me tell you what MP3 player I got. I got the Pyle X1 Gen 2 high-res audio player. It could play lossless audio files. Wonderful. That's great and all, but I don't have any lossless audio files, so that gives me zero benefit. The reason I got it is because I have adopted this new practice. And I say practice because what I am doing is actually practice. Every single day, I'm recording 20 to 30 minutes of audio just speaking into a microphone. And I actually have given this a lot of thought. I tweeted about it this last week, and I think it's something that a lot more podcasters should probably do. So what is recording every single day doing? It is doing a lot of stuff for me. First off, it allows me a lot more opportunity to try out different microphones. So that is not going to be something that is a benefit for everybody. But for me, given that I review audio gear, I think that's really a very good benefit and very beneficial for me. I really enjoy grabbing a different microphone every single day and recording into it for 20 to 30 minutes. Also, it gives me a lot of opportunities to practice speaking on a microphone and convey my ideas more concisely and more clearly, which I hope I'm doing. But that's something that previously, the only practice I would get with that would be when I'm actually recording a podcast. And as I stated in my tweet, if you want to get good at guitar, you practice guitar. If you want to get good at public speaking, you practice public speaking. If you want to get good at podcasting, why don't you practice podcasting? Most people just say, it's podcast day, I'm going to turn on that microphone and get going. But throughout the week before or the month before, however long, they're not practicing. They're just jumping on a microphone and going. Now, I view this as practice time. I am hopefully going to gain skills, learn my crutch words, learn to avoid them, and just get better at being a podcaster. And I think that has been a lot of fun to see. I've been doing it for maybe 2 weeks now. But why the MP3 player? Well, it's because I talk for 20 to 30 minutes, and I am sure there's some really stupid ideas in those recordings, and I don't want those recordings to get out there. So I have decided not to put those into iTunes because the iTunes syncs to the iCloud, and who knows when the next iCloud breach is going to happen where somebody could access all these recordings that I just record stream of consciousness ideas and thoughts for 30 minutes a day. That's a lot of ammunition. This doesn't have Wi-Fi. This doesn't have a way for somebody to hack it. They would need to physically get this to get access to those files. Although, do I actually keep the files in here? I don't know. It has a removable SD card. You will never know. So that is why I ended up picking up an MP3 player, because it's not internet connected. I am doing a lot of practicing and a lot of testing on microphones just to get better at speaking into microphones, get better at not stumbling over my words. And also, it's just fun. It's fun to get these new little toys and play around with them. And I have been wanting an MP3 player for a while, or I guess a lossless high-res audio player. But Pyle does make good DACs and amps, so if anybody could do it, they could do it. Okay, let's jump to my favorite part of the podcast, the Ask Bandrew segment. Okay, if you got any questions, send them to askbandrew@gmail.com, and I will likely answer them on an upcoming episode of the podcast. We got maybe 7 more after this week, so we're running low. Send in your questions. Let me know anything that you want advice on. Audio gear, fixing your audio, talking about your audio. Don't just send me audio questions. Send me life advice questions. How do you deal with Cheryl at work? She's awful. She keeps eating your lunch. Let me give you advice that will ruin your life. Okay, first email comes from the eldest bro. He says, "Dear Sir Bandar Scott, hello Bandrew. I hope this email finds you well. I am writing you in regards to a question about audio gear." Perfect. I have the Samson C02s and I am planning to use them for a live stream, but the gain I will have to set them at the self-noise becomes very audible. Is there any way I can try to cut that down without using the OBS noise removal, because that just makes your mic sound like crap? Thank you very much, Eldest, the co-host of the Fourth Wall Alliance. Eldest, thank you very much. I think we've actually discussed this in the podcasted Discord server many, many times, but I'm going to answer it here in case anybody else out there is wondering. So, since the issue that you are having is not with preamp noise, but rather with the self-noise of the microphones themselves, there's really not much you can do. I know that's not the answer you're looking for, but there's not going to be much you can do short of a couple of things, which I'll tell you right now. So you would either need to get the microphone much closer to your mouth so that the sound source, i.e. your voice, is going to be significantly louder than that underlying self-noise of the microphone. The second would be either use a noise removal plugin that in your software, whether it be OBS, whether you get Z-Noise, whether you get that Acusonus denoise plugin, any of these things, or you get a hardware expander gate, which I actually think you did. You got the 266XS, which has an expander and a gate, so you are on the right track. Now, if anybody out there doesn't know what self-noise is, I'll go ahead and explain it so they can understand the problem that you're having, because I think it's an interesting issue to discuss. So condenser microphones have electronics in them, and you can think of them as preamps. It's essentially boosting the signal from the microphone before it gets sent to a preamp, and those electronics, depending on their quality and their design, will introduce noise to the microphone's signal. So when a microphone does have a really high self-noise, when you boost the preamp of your interface or your external preamp, you're not just boosting the sound source you're recording, in Eldest's case, his voice, but you're also boosting the self-noise of that microphone. Therefore, you want to make sure that the sound source you're recording is as loud as possible, and that will give you the biggest differential between the sound source and the noise floor. Now, if you're confused by what self-noise is still, I'll give you a good way to illustrate the point. Go ahead and in the room you're recording in, go ahead and turn on a fan in the background. Now go ahead and speak into the microphone at a regular volume and listen to the background noise while you're talking, and then be quiet and listen to the fan noise. Now, go ahead and start whispering into the microphone, and now boost the gain of your preamp to get that at the same level, and then be quiet and listen to the fan noise in the background. You'll notice that the fan noise got significantly louder because you have to increase that background noise or the self-noise of the microphone along with the boosting of the sound source. So that is the problem that Eldest is having. And to summarize, there's really nothing that you can do to decrease the self-noise of the C02s. So you will have to get the mic close to you so the sound source is louder, or you will have to go ahead and cave and use a noise removal plugin or an external hardware gate expander thing. So Eldest, thank you very much for the email. I hope that helped, although I don't think you needed my help because I think we've already resolved that in the voice chat. The next email comes from Quant. He says, "Hello, I am very inexperienced when it comes to audio with microphones, and I cannot for the life of me figure out how to get the best sounding mic into the Xbox One controller. I keep reading that mixers and audio interfaces output at line level instead of mic level or something like that. I don't even know what the Xbox One controller even uses. I'm thinking it just uses like standard mic level like on a PC or USB sound card. Do you happen to know what would be the best way to get my SM58 to work through the Xbox One controller? Here is what I am thinking. SM58 iRig Pre to the Xbox One controller, or SM58 to UMC204HD to RCA playback outputs to 3.5mm to Y-splitter for headphones and mic to Xbox One controller. I heard the iRig Pre has really bad pre's and the SM58 would need a FET head in that case. I really just don't know what I'm doing. I would really love your take on this. I bet a lot of people would love to know how to do it as well to get a really nice clean signal to any 3.5mm mic in on standard stuff like cameras, PCs, Xbox One, and PS4. Thanks, man, and keep up the work you do. Thank you, Quant. Interesting and cool question. I went ahead and did some tests here. I went ahead, pulled out my Xbox One. I got the old school iRig Pre. I got my Shure SM58. I got my FET head, and I did some tests. I tried to record it, but I wasn't able to. It didn't record the stuff that I needed it to, and I didn't have time to re-record the entire thing. Now, what I did is I did exactly what you suggested. Got the Xbox One controller. I have the keyboard attachment, which has the 3.5mm TRRS input. I connected the iRig pre to that. Then I connected the SM58 directly to the iRig pre. When I tested that, it was very, very noisy and a bit quiet. First up, you won't be able to hear anything right off the bat because the iRig pre does not have latency-free monitoring. So you will have to go into the Xbox's settings and turn on mic monitoring. I had to turn it all the way up, but then I could hear exactly what I was saying into the microphone with almost zero latency. It was negligible if it was even there. Now with that, it was a bit noisy. So I went ahead and unplugged that, plugged in the FET head, turned on the phantom power, plugged the SM58 into the FET head, and it was so much better. So it does technically work, but I'm going to go ahead and advise against using this method. The reason I'm advising against it is because the iRig pre has this big dongle and a big hanging box on it that can be heavy, so you're adding unwanted stress to that connection in the Xbox One controller, and you may end up having to replace that or the iRig pre. For the other example that you suggested with the interface and all of that stuff, it just seems a bit too convoluted and there's too many steps in there, too many connections, too many conversions, and I don't think it would give you the best audio quality. When it comes to Xbox gaming, everybody's audio is trash, and I think it's perfectly okay for your audio to suck as well. Use a gaming headset. It's perfectly fine. Nobody is going onto Xbox Live expecting people to be screaming racial slurs in perfect HD audio quality as though you're in a studio. Nobody's expecting that. Just scream racial slurs into your gaming headset because Xbox Live is a dumpster fire. Don't even go on Xbox Live. Problem solved. You don't need to talk to people on that platform. They suck. No offense, Xbox users. I'm an Xbox user, so... I just don't go on Xbox Live. I hope that helped. It does work. I don't recommend it, though. The last email comes from Angry Marks Rewind. Hi, Bandrew. Greetings from Canada. I recently started a podcast with a friend over Skype discussing my favorite passion, old-time pro wrestling. I know it's a niche target audience, but that's not the point. I'm currently in the production of episode 7 and have tried to improve the audio quality with each passing episode. Because of what I had available to me, I started by using the Microsoft Live Chat headset. The audio was, as you would expect, very tinny with no bass, and there was a constant echo. I treated myself, and based on your reviews of budget microphones, purchased the NW800 kit. I also needed an interface, and despite your personal Twitter recommendation to me, my bad, I went with the Pyle Pro Pad 10 MXU over the Behringer UM2 because I wanted an audio mixer to add intro and outro music without having to add them in post with Audacity. The audio levels on the Pyle Pro are hard to pinpoint when I have my iPod plugged into the RCA line on the mixer. Also, the 6.5mm headphone adapter doesn't sound like it's giving great levels. It's very quiet, and the audio clips even when the gains are set very low. The cables I'm using could be described as budget. I'm sure the quality of my cables and headphone adapters could make a difference in the levels that I'm getting. Are gold-plated cables and headphone adapters the key to better levels? Also, your review video of the 10 MXU does have a good job explaining features, but is there a tutorial out there to provide optimum gain levels while recording in Audacity? Much love from the north, Rowan. Rowan, great questions. First, I did listen to episode 7 of your podcast, the Angry Marks Rewind podcast, and it does sound like you're clipping. I understand exactly what you mean there. Then, in order to understand the issue that you're having, and to see if I could replicate the issue, I pulled out the Pyle Pad 10 MXU. I didn't have the NW800 at leisure, so I just pulled out the NW7000 and an Amazon Basics XLR cable, and I did some recordings and tests, and I'll show you what I found and let you hear what I found. I'm going to go ahead and include it right now. One little note, I did boost the audio in post by 8 decibels, I think, but here's that recording and all of that information. Okay, Rowan, so currently I have the Neewer NW7000 running through an Amazon Basics $5 XLR to XLR cable plugged directly into the Pyle Pad 10 MXU. I have the 48 volts phantom power turned on. I don't recall if it's actually providing 48 volts, but the phantom power is turned on, and my channel 1 gain is set at about 11 o'clock. And I am just about to clip with the metering light on the Pad 10, but I'm not clipping yet. Then for the monitor selection, which is going to be what you hear in the headphones, I have that set at about 10:30 or 11. I'll go ahead and have a picture up on the screen right here of the settings I have for the Pad 10. And then the master volume, which is what's going to control the level that's being recorded to your computer, is set at about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, around that area, and I could probably bring it up a little bit more. As you can see on the screen, I'm recording and capturing this audio using Audio Hijack, and I'm hitting around -10 decibels. But this is the audio quality I'm getting. I didn't hook up an iPhone and mess with that at all, but I'm not sure why you would be getting quiet audio. It should be pretty easy to get good levels here. You just need to make sure you're not clipping when you're going in, and that the monitor and master dials are set properly. Hope that helps. Okay, Rowan, now as you could tell from that, I was getting perfectly fine levels using an Amazon Basics XLR cable. I was connecting using my Sony MDR7506s and getting a perfectly fine level. I probably could have boosted the output, the main output on the Pyle a little bit more so I didn't have to boost it 8 decibels in post, but I wanted to be a little bit on the safe side and avoid any kind of clipping going in. The levels sounded perfectly fine to me, and I don't think there was many issues there. So to answer the question, I don't think that the gold-plated cables from Monster or anything are going to improve your audio levels. I think it's something with the way you're setting it up, or maybe you do have a faulty unit. But in that clip, I did show you the settings that I was using, and I hope that gives you a good jumping off point on how to set up your mixer, and maybe it'll help you fix the issue. There you have it. That's the end of episode 138 of the Bandrew Says podcast. Again, you got any questions? AskBandrew@gmail.com. Follow me on Twitter @BandrewSays. Want the show notes? Want other episodes of the podcast? BandrewSays.com. And I'll see you all next week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Bye.
This has been a Geeks Rising production, your executive producer of Bandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.